Hi folks, this is Bob Main from the Handgun World Show. And I'm going to do a review here of my Kahr P380. Real nice little pocket pistol backup gun, 380 caliber. Before I go any further with this review, if some of you don't know about my podcast, let me invite you to listen to my weekly gun show. It's an internet podcast called the Handgun World Show. And that can be found at www.handgunworld.com. Check it out. I keep it real practical, and I keep it a no-nonsense approach to talking about firearms. All right, the Kahr P380. Let's get right into it. Before I go any further with this review at all, let me go ahead and do a safety check. Let me show you that this is a safe and clear weapon. There is nothing in the chamber. Let's do a quick chamber check. Nothing in there. Here's the magazine. The magazine is completely empty. No ammo anywhere near this gun. Okay, now that we got that out of the way. First of all, this is going to be a no-nonsense review. I like to tell it like it is. I have no vested interest. I don't represent Kahr in any way. I just talk about my personal experience. There's a lot of 380s on the market. This, in my humble opinion, is the best pocket 380 you can buy, and I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, this is a polymer framed gun. Now, a lot of people say that the polymer framed Kahrs have reliability problems. I have not had hardly any reliability problems with this at all. Maybe in the first few years that Kahr was putting out guns, that might have been a problem. I think they've gotten it right now. I think they pretty much nailed it. They've got their reliability issues, most of them behind them. I got this gun just a couple months after they first came out, so I guess I've had it right around 2 years, I think, right now. I've got about 1,400 rounds through this little thing. And I'll try to let you get a close-up here. There's not much wear on it. First of all, this is a high-quality pistol. Very high quality. It's worth the money. I got it for less than $600, but it's well worth the money, folks. This is something you're going to depend your life on. Okay? Excuse me. You're going to bet your life on it. Yeah, your life's going to depend on it. Anyway, you might as well make it quality. First of all, as you can see, I got a whole rubber grip on here. Why? Well, here's why. Check that out. I got decent sized hands here, and my hands are wrapped completely around that little thing. One of the negatives is it's so small. If you have big hands, it's hard to get a grip on. So I added that Hogue rubber grip. Makes a big difference. I don't know if you can see this, but you see a little bit of skateboard tape I've got right there on the back strap, and a little bit of skateboard tape on the front strap, and that's underneath. That holds this Hogue rubber grip in place. It keeps it from slipping. That's an idea that I want to share with you. All right, the positives. This is a very, very tightly built firearm. I mean, this thing, my goodness. First of all, the barrel is a very, very high-grade barrel. The stainless steel slide is fantastic. Gee, this thing needs a cleaning. I haven't cleaned it in a while. Good steel, guide rod. Very, very well built. The camera doesn't do justice to the quality of this firearm. It's just it's an excellent piece. Go to a gun dealer or go to a gun show and handle one of these. You'll like it. Here's one of the things that separates it from a lot of 380s right here. It has real sights. Okay, now they're real low profile. They're hard to see. Pretty soon I'm going to put some excess big dot sights on here. The V rear notch and the big dot in the front. They make them for the Kahrs, and they make them for this pistol. That's one of the investments I need to make pretty soon. With a gun like this, you're probably going to be point shooting anyway. This is not going to be a long distance shooting gun. If you have to resort to a backup gun, in my opinion, it's probably going to be very close proximity, and you're probably just going to be pointing this and shooting it. So the sights are not a big deal, but if you have to use them, real good sights on here. And they're metal sights, they're good quality. Okay, the magazine button. The magazine button's right there where it's supposed to be. Okay, no funky magazine changes like some 380s out there. A lot of people criticize this slide release lever. Now, Kahrs are one of the few guns where the manufacturer recommends that you use the slide release lever like that to put the gun into battery. They recommend you do that. I don't like that. Okay, I still use the overhand tug method like that. But they recommend it. So given the fact that they recommend that, they put a big slide release lever on here. Now, you might want to take a file and just file down this sharp edge right here. On the top there's a sharp edge that can sometimes poke your thumb. It's really not that bad. A lot of people make too big of a deal out of it. I like it because it's really easy for me to reach that slide release if I have to do that quickly. Again, that's a fine motor skill. I don't like to do that in a combat situation, but if I have to, it's really easy to get to. It's perfectly positioned. That's one thing that I really like about it. The grip angle. Now, you know that I think too much is made about grip angle. I think grip angle is an excuse for poor shooting. That's just my opinion. You may agree, you may not. But I like to shoot Glocks, but I got to tell you, this grip angle of this gun is nice. The bore axis is still relatively low. Check that out. I mean, it's still sitting relatively low in my hand. The recoil is very, very mild on this. This gun unloaded, I think, weighs approximately about 9 ounces unloaded. This magazine right here holds 6 plus 1 in the pistol. I got 7 rounds of .380 on board. I always carry an extra magazine, so really I've got 13 rounds of .380 on board when I've got 2 full magazines and the gun. But that's still not much weight. That's still very, very, very light. No excuse not to have one of these in your right hip pocket or your left hip pocket, depending on whether you're a righty or a lefty, and a spare magazine in your back pocket. No reason not to have that. Ladies, you're going to like this gun. Ladies are going to like this gun because of its quality, it's lightweight, and it's easy to shoot. Now, let's just make sure we're empty again. Good, safe gun. The trigger. The trigger is a relatively long double action trigger stroke. Now, let's see if I can do this. Yep, sorry about that, folks. Hit the camera a little bit. Watch this. It's a very long reset. All the way to there. That's a long reset and a long stroke. But you know what? It's very smooth. It's not a short reset like this. Like Glocks are very short. 1911s are even really short. But this is smooth. This is a very smooth trigger pull. It's not a real hard. If you're a revolver shooter, you're also going to love this gun. So pressing this trigger is not much of a problem. Okay, now I got to make sure I keep my finger out of the trigger unless I'm ready to shoot. But I did that for demonstration purposes. Okay, couple of negatives. There are some negatives about this gun. First of all, the price. Okay, it's around $600. Now, for some people, $600 is a negative. For me, I look at it this way. My life is worth at least $600. The other negative is when you first get this gun, folks, you're going to have to shoot it about 300 rounds to get this thing broken in well and to figure out what kind of ammo it likes. It doesn't like every type of ammo. I use a lot of Corbon DPX. Okay? I use a lot of Corbon DPX and Remington Golden Saber. It really likes the Remington Golden Sabers and it really likes the Corbon DPX. It didn't like Federal and it didn't like the Spear Gold Dots. I'm not sure why. Some people have a theory of carrying Full Metal Jacket when you're using .380 because it's not a real high penetrating round. That's up to you. I'm not going to advise you on that. I'm not going to get into that. But here's what I will tell you. It feeds the Full Metal Jacket rounds nicely too. After about, let's see, I guess I've got somewhere between 1,100 and 1,300 rounds for this. I've lost count. But it's between about 1,100 and 1,300 rounds. In the first few hundred, I had about 3 failures to feed. Never had an ejection problem, never had an extraction problem. It just was a failure to feed. I attribute that to a tight gun when you first get it, and it has to be broken in. Since then, flawless. Flawless. Folks, a week ago, I shot an IDPA backup gun match with this, and it was incredibly accurate and not a single problem throughout the entire match. Okay, it was only about a 60 round match or so. No, I guess not. I guess it was around 35, 40 rounds. But it was a lot of fast shooting and so forth, no problem. Okay, so that made me feel good about it. Reliability, I got to give it up for Kahr. They do a pretty good job with it. The Other negative is field stripping. This is not anywhere near as easy as a Glock or an XD or an M&P. You have to retract the slide partially. You got to pop out that slide stop lever, and then the slide falls straight up off the frame. But it's not that easy to do. While you're holding the slide back, you have to pop out that takedown lever, which is also the slide release lever. I do like the fact, though, that Kahr has dual functionality for different parts. This slide release lever is also the takedown lever and also gives it a good tight lockup. It makes this whole chamber area lock up nice and tight. That's good. I like that. Now, I'm not a gunsmith, but I do know that that helps right there. Having dual functionality for parts that makes a gun very, very reliable. This is a striker-fired gun. The internals of this, one thing I liked about it is the internals of this, very similar to the simplicity of a Glock. Another thing I like, you don't see anything right here in terms of a thumb safety, do you? No thumb safety. That's one of the big criticisms of my SIG P238. I may not own that P238 much longer. I don't know. It's over at SIG right now, getting tuned up a little bit. I just don't know if I can deal with the thumb safety. If you are a 1911 shooter, you can deal with that. But anyway, we're talking about my Kahr, so I won't get too far off track. But this is a fantastic gun. I would say you need to own one of these. You have to have a little pocket pistol like this. They're just, they're fantastic, and there's not much. I don't have a lot of negative stuff to say about this. It's incredibly accurate. I've shot this thing. I've practiced this thing with at 15 yards. And at 15 yards, it's very, very accurate. I was very surprised by this 2-inch barrel, how accurate that is at 15 yards. See, in the slide here, you got to work at it to pull it back. I guess that's one of the negatives. It's a stiff slide to pull back. It's sprung very heavily. That recoil spring in there is a very heavy recoil. For some women shooters, that could be a negative. I'll say right up front. For some ladies, chambering around could be a negative because it's not easy to pull that slide back. But anyway, I was talking about this short barrel. That's supposedly, right there it is, that's supposedly a very well-made barrel, and you can just tell by the looks of this gun. It reeks quality, folks. It reeks quality, and I like that. I like to keep my life defended with a quality firearm. That's it. That's pretty much all that I want to say about this little beauty. Get yourself one or two. Maybe a his and hers. I don't know. Think about it. Anyway, safe shooting, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Kahr P380 review. Again, check out my podcast. It's a weekly podcast on the internet. Download it to your iPod or your MP3 player, what have you, and let's talk about guns. That's at handgunworld.com, and it can also be found on iTunes. You can search Handgun World Show on iTunes. All right, thanks for watching, folks. Safe shooting and keep your muzzle downrange, and remember the 4 rules of gun safety.